How about this, ladies and gentlemen?
Amar victory, holy damn.
So
Just
the
double check.
big differences here is that Flight Deck has brought a Griffin. I think that's probably the biggest difference you see, right? Like the Confessors are definitely different ships than Vexors. I don't know if they're necessarily similar. I think those are Pulse Confessors, which do about 600 DPS heated, which is really scary for a destroyer.
The one thing I'm loving here is the potential of 2 Newt Vexes. They are both gunless, so they are definitely both Newting Vexes, so I can see them potentially being a big thing, or dying in seconds and meaning absolutely nothing. I want to see what happens with those guys.
Yeah, Flight Deck have slightly weaker Logi figures with the Thalias because they can't bring Deacons because they won with those already.
I think the target calling is going to be the big thing here. If they, depending on really what they're doing, and Flight Deck's actually been really smart, and they have not moved their Paladins at all. They're just sitting them at 0 and are going to try and just blast something right off the bat. A lot of target painters going out on the Thalias of Flight Deck. Looks like they're both going for a Logi trade. Both teams do have Hugins, so it's a little more viable than possible, or than you would normally think. I'm a little bit of trouble applying. Looks like the Deacon of Nightmare Skating is taking a lot of damage, though, of Boom Bro.
Speaking of application as well, the one thing that Nightmare Skating have brought that might help them out there is the Vigil. Yeah, they protect one of the Thalias. The Vigil's giving extra paints as well, which actually might make the difference when it comes to killing off these small ships.
Yeah, we had the Griffin trying to jam the Hugin. Unfortunately, that's a pretty hard ship to jam, so he wasn't able to get it.
I'm surprised not trying to jam at the Paladin just to ruin their day, because after all, they are Marauders. They hate ECM.
Oh, I think it's trying to jam the Hugin to unweb the Thalia, so that way it probably would survive a bit longer than jamming like a Paladin. But with the Vigil paints on it anyway, it's pretty hard to deal with. It looks like that Vigil's been caught. The Griffin's been caught too. Sorry, with the web.
Yeah, the Thalia at the moment's got an absolute massive rep drones on it now, so he hopefully, as long as he keeps his speed up, he should stay alive, no worries. At least at the moment. Then again, I say that as his armor goes down even lower, so again,
I'm
wrong.
like 90% sure that the Griffin was able to jam the Hugin, which is why that Thalia is surviving right now. Because if you see that the Hugin was only webbing the Griffin, that's usually a pretty good sign that that's happened. However, the Hugin on Nightmare Skating Issues team actually decided to ram the Paladins. And I say it in that way because he wasn't that far away. He's trying to burn away right now, but he is now tackled by the Super KK and a Vexor. So there's an opportunity to take the Hugin down. Light Heaven kind of drove straight into those Paladins on Flight Deck's team, and they were able to newt and web him down. So the webs going off of their Thalia has actually saved it thanks to the Paladin newts and the jams of the Griffin. That being said, Nightmare Skating does have both Deacons still.
There's a Confessor charging after that Griffin now too, so it looks like the Confessor's trying to get rid of that Griffin.
Just kidding. Bye, Thalia. The Hugin must have gotten unwebbed or unjammed long enough, and so now Flight Deck has no Logi versus Nightmare with Logi.
Yeah, I was like, the Hugin charging in as well. That can occasionally not be a bad idea, but unfortunately he charged into, as we said before, Newting Vexes, who just immediately turned him off. It's like, okay,
that Confessor that went after that Griffin in the back lines is in trouble. He's completely away from the Deacons.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they did lose a Vexor at the same time, though. So the Paladins have the ability to hit almost everything in the arena with extremely high DPS. So if you fly off too far away, they can kind of just turn and swap to you. It looks like Nightmare's going for the other Vexor, just trying to take down that ability for them to tackle and get rid of Rose attack here.
Yeah, that Confessor going after the Griffin, I think, did push him away long enough to get the Hugin unjammed, so it was still probably a good idea. Like I said, the Griffin is about to go down here. It's webbed and target painted. It's got a Vexor scrammed. It's looking really good for Nightmare Skating.
Poor Vic Griffin. But hey, honestly, the Griffin did a pretty good job there. You can't really expect much more from a T1 frigate just running for his life. But this Vexor is still holding on in hull, and pop, there he goes.
So here's my question here. The Flight Deck's obviously behind. They need to probably switch their targeting a little bit. Was the Vigil the thing that made the difference there, or was it that Flight Deck couldn't bring Deacons? Because Nightmare's Deacons lived, whereas the Thalias of Flight Deck did not.
Potentially, but honestly, the extra application could have really made a difference. But at the same time, it could just be that Thalias are just that much more inferior.
And they just took the links out. So yeah, the only thing Flight Deck can do at this point, I think, is they need to take down a Paladin, which is going to be very, very difficult. I think they have the DPS for it if they had swapped a little earlier, because they're clearly not taking down any of the small ships. We're actually seeing Rosemary take a ton of DPS right now on the Flight Deck's team.
It's too late, yeah. It's unfortunately, if they tried doing it now, they're already behind on the 8 ball in the Paladin race, so there's nothing they can do. At this point, it is over. Unless those Paladins manage like MJD and Boundary, they can't catch up.
I mean, it is Nightmare Skating issue Paladins. They boundaried the last 2 matches, so to be fair.
We can all hope, right? We can hope for the massive throw. I mean, just look at that Deacon. Look how much rep drones are on that guy.
Yeah, he actually just got a bunch of them smart bombed off by his own teammate, and Rosemary's close enough to be getting grapples on him now, but I think Rosemary's going to go down. Look at the self-rep on this Paladin, though. Like, he has nothing keeping him up besides his own reppers, and he's actually tanking really, really well here. So maybe the Logi was bait the whole time.
Yeah, the links are about to drop off, though, in about 30 seconds, because that Ponty died about a minute and a half ago, and once the links disappear, I think he's going to die pretty quickly. There they go. You just saw, like, the massive defense bar drop.
Yeah, links are very, very strong.
As well as, like, once these laser ships get through the armor into the hull, it's like, okay, well, this is easy pickings now. Insta kill.
It is important to note that this doesn't. This just means the Flight Deck is still up 2-1 as opposed to getting a clean sweep, and it also bans Deacons, Hugins, Confessors, Vigils, Paladins, and a Magus from Nightmare Skating issue team. So, this.
Yeah, that's
a
ships
big deal. Yeah, they just lost. I mean, losing the Hugin alone is it's honestly a really huge thing. We've been seeing a lot of really good Hugin piloting throughout this tournament. So, and yeah, Bastion module is banned, just for people who aren't aware. Obviously, if you had a Bastioned Marauder, it would probably be able to tank any 10-man team.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Confessor's being banned for them now as well. That's honestly quite interesting because they're a very common like backline ship for damaging support, for killing off any Logi drones. They're very useful to have, and them being banned could actually be a pretty annoying thing at times. You have to now switch to Swipples, or maybe
Swipples are good. Yeah.
Yeah, but the difference I think is like Swipples are way better tackle boats, whereas Confessors can be really good at just anything. They can tackle, but they can also remove small ships, remove drones. They can just be more versatile. Whereas the Swipple is just the big tackle boat that comes after you. And then it obliterates just more stuff at close range.
Yeah, Nightmare's just kind of finishing off the last couple of ships here. Interesting. Like, I don't know. I want to know if it's. I think the Deacon versus the Thalia. I wonder if that was what it was. Like, we need to look at it. But like Satonia, there's a reason why we only see Deacons, and it's because they are just better in general. Do you think that might have been it, or do you think it was the Vigil versus the Griffin that kind of made that happen?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the Vigil definitely made a huge difference, especially since they couldn't just jam the Hugin. Like the Vigil was just always on. I think the Confessors also played a bit of a part too, because like when we saw the Thalia just die was when like one of the Confessors just charged after the Griffin and forced him to NWD out of range. The Confessor died for it, but they were able to get the Thalia kill from it. And I think the match like went from that point.